Choosing what to watch.
Night after night.
The flicking through.
The endless searching is a nightmare.
We want to help you.
On our brand new podcast, Off the Telly, we share what we've been watching. Gladiator.
Loads of games, loads of fun, loads of screaming. Lovely.
Off the Telly with me, Joanna Page.
And me, Natalie Cassidy. So your evenings can be a little less searching.
And a lot more watching.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Liam McLeod and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast, kickstarting your week with everything you need to know about the national game. As we record, it's the evening of Sunday the 31st of March, so no April Fools here. Here's what's coming up.
Bernardo smashes it into the bottom corner. A fabulous finish. Tries to curl one. That's a brilliant finish from Ravi Matondo.
It's as you were at the top of the Premiership after wins for league leader Celtic and for Rangers. There was plenty to play for at the other end of the table too.
Took lovely little touch and turn. McGrath! Aberdeen retake the lead and Jamie McGrath's the goal scorer.
And Aberdeen fans breathing a little easier at the start of the working week. And in the Championship.
Oh, what a finish that is! Dundee United take the lead. Tony Watt with a touch and finish. Magnificent.
How significant was Dundee United's victory over Raith Rovers?
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
So thank you for joining and subscribing if you're doing that. If you're not, please do. It's pretty easy. Just click the button and away you go. I'm joined on this edition of the podcast by Jackie McNamara and Kevin Thomson, two men who know all about title races. They know all about everything else because they've played for other clubs as well across everything that's going on in Scottish football. Firstly to you, Kevin, it was a fairly spiky conversation you were involved in on Sports Sound on Saturday evening as I was driving home from the match at Ibrox where I was working. With Michael and Kenny.
I'm saying that Aberdeen fans deserve to have a manager that really wants to be at that football club. That's what I'm saying. And that's what Kevin's saying too as well.
But you're putting forward a position that makes no sense.
No, you're wrong, Michael. You have to, some things you have to accept that. Darren, just fine.
No. Did you enjoy your little sparring session on air?
I think it's fair to say when you mention Michael Stewart's name, Liam, that it's always a bit frosty and it can always end up in a wee bit of debate. So listen, I've obviously played with Michael when I was at Hibs and enjoyed his company and maybe less so at different times, but listen, we're both long enough in the tooth and we've both got thick enough skin that we can handle a nice healthy debate, should we say. It
was an excellent listen, Kevin. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Jackie, how are you?
Good, thanks, yeah.
Enjoy the action over the weekend?
Yeah, I think I obviously watched the game today, so it wasn't a classic by any means, but it's always going to be a slow start but I think Celtic got there in the end.
They did, yeah, and Livingston were very good in the first half defensively. They didn't really threaten Joe Hart. Celtic, I think, took them to the stoppage time to get a shot on target, but they certainly turned it on in the second half. We're going to have a little look at that game that was played at Amon Vale on Sunday and everything else because it was an action-packed weekend. We'll get through plenty with Jackie and Kevin. First, though, let's have a little run through, as we always do, with the latest Scottish football headlines. Celtic won 3-0 at Livingston on Sunday afternoon to return to the summit of the Premiership. That result came after Rangers kept the pressure up on their Glasgow rivals on Saturday, with James Tavernier scoring the opener in a 3-1 win over Hibs to become the highest scoring defender in UK football history. Aberdeen claimed what could be a significant 3 points by beating fellow strugglers Ross County 2-1 at Pittodrie. Dundee overcame St Johnstone by the same scoreline in Perth. It's a result that the Dark Blues manager Tony Docherty described as a massive win. No wonder they are in the top six. Motherwell and St Mirren drew 1-1, as did Hearts and Kilmarnock, while Falkirk clinched the League One title with 5 games to spare at the weekend. And in the Championship, Dundee United moved 4 clear at the top with a 2-0 win over their title rivals Raith Rovers and Tannadice. And in the SWPL, Rangers remain top after beating Hibs 2-1, while Celtic remain a point behind, but moved clear in second spot after defeating Glasgow City. Right, let's start with Sunday's game then, guys. Jackie said you were glued to it earlier on. 3-0 win Celtic, as I kind of touched on there, I think the second half performance was terrific. I think Celtic went about their business pretty well in the end, and they responded to the fact, Jackie, that they'd been put under a bit of pressure by Rangers yesterday when they beat Hibs. So they've reacted to that in the best possible way.
Yeah, it's a tough place to go with the pitch and everything else. I thought first half it didn't create a lot of possession, a lot of good areas. I thought I was quite impressed with Kuhn when he was playing. Carter Vickers obviously solid coming back in. So I think Brendan will be happy with the performance overall. We have a few coming back as well. Tati coming in is a big thing for them. He nearly scored, and it sets it up for next week, which it's going to be an important game for both sides.
He's terrific to watch, Tati, Kevin, isn't he? And he made a huge difference to Celtic today. I thought he was a standout. He played 65 minutes. It was his first start for Celtic since they drew with Atletico in the Champions League in October. So to get him back ahead of the match at Ibrox in particular next Sunday is a huge boost for them, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a top player. And the other one that Jackie mentioned, in Carter Vickers, I think he's as good as anyone in the country, really. So, listen, any good team needs their good players, and when you miss them, whether they're old firm or whether you're, all due respect to Livingston, struggling down the bottom, every team needs their good players playing, and it'll be a positive thing for Brendan and obviously the Celtic fans and the team, because not just quality players, but I'm pretty sure they're drivers when it comes to having the personality to drag the team through when maybe, like Jackie mentioned, Livingston, difficult place to go. Yeah, you're expecting Celtic to win, but a team fighting for the life and you're going for the title, the games just get that wee bit more scrutiny on them, and there's a wee bit more pressure, and then you know that when your rival's breathing down your neck, one slip up can be costly.
Yeah, and Carter Vickers, Jackie, he just brings this calmness to that Celtic defence, and you can quite clearly put him up there with Celtic centre-backs over the last few decades, many of whom you played with, the likes of O'Haran and Balde, and you look at Van Dijk and Ayer, all these guys. He just has. He's almost. I think I said during the commentary of the match today for the Sports Scene highlights, he's almost got a metaphorical cigar out when you watch him play, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's never flustered, and I think his biggest, obviously, is his strength. He reads the game very well. He's deceivingly quick as well at times. There, uses his body. As I said, and I think he's a calming influence on the rest of the defence. At times it looked a bit shaky over the season, and getting bullied a wee bit. You've seen that the Motherwell game. So I think he brings a real steeliness to the defence, but which sets up for everything else. Hatati coming back in, obviously they're still missing Callum McGregor, who's a massive player for them, the captain. So they'll be hoping that he's got a chance of making next week.
Yeah, he's a hugely important player for them as well. And someone else who I feel kind of goes under the radar quite a lot at Celtic is Greg Taylor, who I thought was terrific today. Defensively, okay, he didn't have too much to do, but offensively, he was popping up in some really dangerous areas. And we've grown accustomed to seeing him in those positions since Postecoglou and his time at the club, Kevin. He was a threat constantly for Celtic today, and it's taken a while to win over the Celtic supporters. There's maybe some still he's not won over, but I just feel he's a really important player to that Celtic team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and he gives you the natural, width as well. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou, Liam, compared to Brendan. Brendan's more possession based. There's more patience to try and run the team down. There's certainly a difference in tempo. And Ange Postecoglou, listen, his style was there for everybody to see with inverted fullbacks, and they're almost relentless. The ball boys almost jumping on the pitch to get the ball back in the pitch, how quick they used to play. So I think the speed of how Celtic and the relentlessness that they had under Postecoglou was totally different to Brendan. Doesn't mean that they're not both top managers, but it's different. And you mentioned people like Greg Taylor. I know how difficult it is to win over the Old Firm fans. You're up against it every time you touch the ball. You become a hero or a zero within the split second. Jackie will vouch for that. But I have to say, he's probably been one of the ones that's a wee bit an unsung hero for me in that Celtic team, because he's no flashy, he's no one of the big names, but I bet his teammates really respect him for the energy that he brings to the team, and the bits that you mentioned, the quality that he brings in the final third.
I know that Jackie, you did have the odd threat of a ban during your time at Dundee United, for example, but how different would it have been for Brendan Rodgers today, sitting in the stand watching that? I mean, he's not in the thick of it, so he's got that opportunity to sit there and cast his eye over it from a different point of view. It would have been a frustrating day for him, but would he have been fairly calm up there?
I think he was calm. Obviously, the first half was quite slow. And as Kevin said, they try to wear them down and create opportunities or get everybody behind the ball. Yeah, it can be frustrating when I've been sent off a few times myself, and if I think like Brendan there, I probably would have been sent off again if I was dealing with what he dealt with the week there. There would probably been a lengthier ban after the game at Tynecastle. It is frustrating because it doesn't allow you to do your job properly. You just got to sit there and hope that the players do everything you planned for before it. But as I said, there wasn't any really uncomfortable moments for them in the game. I don't think Livingston really. I think they'd one opportunity late on in the second half with Bruce Anderson to try to create something, but other than that, I think Joe Hart had anything to do.
Just finally on Celtic, Jackie, they seem to be in a relatively decent place just now. They've reacted to the defeat at Tynecastle. They've got through to that cup semi-final, beat St Johnstone and Livingston. Okay, it's two of the teams that are struggling at the bottom end of the table, but getting Hatate back, possibly having McGregor back for Ibrox next week. They're top of the league. That was hugely important for them, particularly if they hadn't won today and then lost at Ibrox. Rangers then have that game in hand to come at Dens on the Wednesday night as well. Do you think they're in good spirits going into this match?
I think they are. I think they're getting the players back that are important for them at this stage, that are missing. I agree with Kevin with the differences in the style of play, which is, it's a lot slower on the eye. With Ange, it was a high intensity and with the energy in the stadium, and that, I think it's taken like obviously the players to adapt to that and the fans as well. You're used to seeing there when you've got players in your team like Kyogo, there it's everything he does to get that space and get that time. You see the goal he scored against Rangers in the last game, just that split second because it's done at pace, and that's where they're most effective. And I think it takes the players a good bit of time to adjust to that. But I think, going to the game next week, they'll need to play at a high intensity. They'll need to up it and match Rangers with their physicality and their play. They've got some pace in their team down the sides as well. So but it should be an interesting game.
Livy look gone, Kev, don't they? 10 points adrift now, 7 games to play. They're not quite in the requiring snookers category at the moment, but it's not far off.
Yeah, I feel for them, Liam, because I've got a lot of admiration for Davy Martindale and the job that he's done at Livy, and you just wondered how many times they can continue to punch above their weight and be competitive. And I know he'll probably say the same. He probably gets a wee bit frustrated talking about budgets and always been up against it and trying to recruit the right players, and he's consistently done that. So I don't think anyone will ever take away how well a job he's done. The harsh reality is it does look like it might come to an end this season, which will be a shame for them. I just hope that the infrastructure behind the club is not one that we end up losing Livingston for a foreseeable future, really. Hopefully they can bounce back if they do, without putting them already relegated. But as the table suggests, that it looks as though the inevitable is almost there. So let's wish them well. And as I mentioned, a lot of admiration for Davy. But even though I'm not a betting man, Liam, my money would be certainly on them to go down.
Still with them. Ball in. Tavernier! And that time is in! Makes up for the penalty miss on his 450th Rangers appearance. Goal number 22 of the season for the Rangers skipper.
Well, let's have a look at Saturday's matches then in the Premiership, shall we? Rangers win over Hibs. Philippe Clement said it was a very convincing performance. I was working at that match. You would have to agree with that. The Highbees managed to find the equaliser in first half stoppage time. Frustratingly for Nick Montgomery, they conceded a couple of minutes later. There was a big bit of stoppage time bolted on at the end of both halves. Rangers, though, Kevin, they were comfortable winners in the end. And it was important for them as well because they'd lost their last couple of matches at Ibrox. They had to get back into winning ways. This is, of course, the battle of your two former clubs in Scotland. And you have to say that Hibs have been in decent form as well. So it's a great result for Rangers at the end of the day, isn't it?
Every win for both teams now, Liam, is really important. And obviously, without sounding disrespectful to any team going to Ibrox, but you're never really expecting points really out with Old Firm. Everybody knows how difficult a place it is to go to Ibrox, and whatever you can get, Jackie will tell you when he was at Dundee United, whatever you can get is a bonus, really. That doesn't mean you go with the wrong mentality or the wrong mindset to try and, stifle them and hope you get a bit of luck on the day. But I felt Hibs had turned a corner, but I certainly think Rangers have turned one as well, Liam. I think the years gone by when I've watched this Rangers team with a lot of the same players, when they've maybe kind of become a wee bit unstuck and they've conceded a goal at the wrong time and the crowd's got on their back, I think the personality in the group has struggled with that. I think since Clement's come in, they look quite comfortable when things don't quite go their way, which is a great attribute to have. Because listen, if it was easy and you won every game, then everybody would do it. It's so difficult to win any game, never mind against a good Hibs team that have turned the corner. So I think when you look at the weekend's fixtures, difficult game for Celtic to put the pressure on them. I think Rangers can only keep on doing their job, really.
Yeah, Hibs will be frustrated, I would have thought, Nick Montgomery in particular, because, how often, and I'm sure you've been on the receiving end of it, both of you, as much as you've been on the right side of it with Celtic and Rangers. They can score late goals in halves and absolutely destroy you, and that was the case with that Dessers header yesterday. Can Nick Montgomery take anything from that, Jackie? Because they were bumped out the top six with Dundee winning at St Johnstone. They have looked better, and the only 2 defeats in the last 9 have been against Rangers.
Yeah, I think he'll be happy that they can go and create there and take and score a goal. I watched them at Easter Road against Rangers earlier on, and he played a different system, and they were miles off it. Didn't create anything. It was like a training game for Rangers. So I think they have came quite a long way since then. He's changed his shape. The players that have came in, they look some really real quality that's coming into them. But it does take time to grow that, as we've seen. But I think, as Kevin said, I don't think anybody expected Hibs to get anything yesterday to go there, but I do think they have improved a little bit, and it's something they want to try and build on.
Yeah, just a word, Kevin, on James Tavernier. I mentioned at the top there, he's the highest scoring defender in British football history, usurping Graham Alexander. Can you sum up how good he's been for Rangers and how important he still is for them?
Listen, it's incredible, Liam, really, the accolade that he's received. And I don't even know how old Tav is. What is he, 30, 31 maybe? He's certainly quite a few years younger than me and Jackie, that's for sure. So listen, he's got a lot more years in him as well, Liam. That's the scary thing. But I think to play right back, and listen, it's unique. I'm not doing him a disservice, but a lot of obviously set plays in there, but a lot of penalties. But by the way, he also won the Golden Boot on the road to Seville as a defender, playing against some top players. So I think whatever narrative you want to kind of go along, depending on what side of the city you support, I think that's, if you're just a football fan, I think everybody would agree, and I'm pretty sure Jackie, being a defender himself, playing it right back for the majority of his career, would echo just as a brilliant achievement. And I think Rangers are lucky to have him. He gets a lot of stick because Jackie's carried that weight. He'd been the captain of a huge club before, and he could probably have had the best game and been the best player on the pitch, but if the team gets beat, it's the captain's fault. It's just the way it is. It comes with the territory. And I think Tav, probably not the natural. Listen, Jack was quite quiet as well. I'm pretty sure he'll echo that. But a leader on the pitch and leader the way he trains, and Tavernier's the same for me. Grabs games with the scruff of the neck. He gets people playing around him, and I don't think he'll ever get the credit that he deserves.
Now, the game at Pittodrie was the other big one in the Premiership, arguably the match of the day. I think it was down as a 6-pointer between these two at the other end of the table. Jackie, how big and important a win was that one for Aberdeen? They've now put a little bit of daylight between themselves, County and St Johnstone. 6 points between themselves and County in 11th. Yeah,
that was a massive win. Showed a bit of character as well. They got an early goal and Ross County came back, Simon Murray. So, maybe earlier on in the season with the fans, the expectation there, they might have went under and drawn the game or lost the game. But I think it was a massive victory for them. Much needed. I think we all look at that from the outside. Played up there under Jimmy Calderwood for a season, and as an expectation there and a demand to win. But the squad that they've got, they should be doing so much better. They should be well up there in the top 6, and there's no doubt. And obviously, different change of managers and everything else, but they should be way above where they are just now.
Yeah, I think the Neil Warnock era, if you can call it that, 33 days, was a bit of a sorry episode, to be honest. And I just wonder, Kev, if they would have been sitting in the top 6 or at least challenging Hibs and Dundee for it. It's not arithmetically impossible for them, but I think it's just one more result away from being away from their grasp. But I just wonder if they would be sitting in the top 6 had Peter Leaven just been given the reins for the month that Warnock was there.
Yeah, I know Peter not overly well, Liam, but I know him. I was on my licence with him, and obviously know his history, and know he's worked abroad, etc. Keeping kind of touch now and again through social media or whatever. So, and I was sad to see Barry Robson and Steve Agnew, who I knew when I was at Middlesbrough, top coach. And Steve, I thought it was a real masterstroke, Robbo, getting Steve to come up with the kind of jobs that he's had. Obviously, kind of following Steve Bruce around the road down south. I echo what Jackie says. Really, that such a massive club, Liam, and they're underachieving. That's the only way. They've got real top players. They've got a brilliant academy. They've got a great catchment when it comes to having the younger ones in the academy. They very rarely get their best young players poached off the old firm. If you were in Central Belt or maybe Edinburgh, it's a wee bit more of a challenge for these teams to keep a hold of them, because the natural thing is the old firm have got the checkbook when it comes to the academy. So I just thought it was a wee bit short-sighted and a bit of I don't know what the right terminology is. I just thought it was a wee bit of laughingstock and putting Neil Warnock in, and I've got massive respect for him. I didn't mean disrespectfully Neil Warnock, but the fact that he's then gave it up after 31, 32, 33 days tells you that it was a wee bit done on a whim. Because I think if he had come in and just stuck it out and got to the end of the season, then I don't think you make yourself look as much a laughingstock. But to go through what he's went through, I just think it's such a huge club, a brilliant club with great history, and they should be doing so much better.
It's also how the game's changed over the years. As soon as he came in the building, he was only there to the end of the season. So all your players in the dressing room are looking at that and thinking, what's going to happen next year? Who's the next manager? It's very, very difficult for the manager at that time to have the power, and the players on his side, because they know he's not going to be there. So I just think the whole thing was strange to do it. For me, it probably would have been better to give it to Barry to the end of the season, or Peter, short term. At least they know who's in charge at that stage.
I have to say, it kind of seems like common sense to just let Peter Leaven take it on right now until they're safe from any kind of issues with the 11th. I mean, the win over County's given them a massive boost, that's for sure. But I think it's taken a lot of the pressure off the Aberdeen board with regards to pushing on and getting an appointment in the can as soon as possible. I think it's now a case of letting Peter Leaven have a go at it, maybe even till the end of the season. We'll wait and see. They've got a Scottish Cup semi-final to come as well, but if they can get a new manager in who can sit there with a watching brief for a couple of weeks and maybe take the last few games, then that might be the way forward for them. We shall see. Demoralising, clearly, for Ross County, because they played pretty well in the game. They probably deserved a point out of it. I think that's what Don Cowie certainly felt. But for them, Kevin, and St Johnstone right now, they look like the two candidates most likely to end up in 11th. How do you see that just now? Do you think Aberdeen and Motherwell have obviously given themselves big shots in the arm in recent times? Motherwell just a point against St Mirren, but they look like they're just above the waterline just now.
I suppose you can't have the mindset, Liam, of thinking that like one result for Aberdeen and you're clean and you're away for the trouble. I think they have to keep on going, obviously, and then the flip of that is the ones that have now found themselves dragged. If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said that I thought Craig Levein would have got St Johnstone safe. And then when I turn up at BBC last night and have a look at the table, a good look at the table to see how it looked, I now think, St Johnstone are in a bit of bother. So it's amazing how things can change in a few weeks. The bottom six is going to be really intriguing, isn't it? However it going to ends up, because you're then playing against, you take not being disrespectful, obviously the bottom six to the top six, but the top six teams are there for a reason, so they're the best teams in the league. So you're going to play the teams that are going to be around you. So it could be so volatile, it could be so up and down, it could be so many toss of the coin games because they're so close. And I don't think Livingston are in a wee bit of bother, there's no doubt about that. But I think when you put St Johnstone, Motherwell, Aberdeen, and obviously Ross County together, added with the difficult games, because listen, Davy Martindale will have them fighting for every game. I think it's going to be so close and so tight, and I still think there's going to be a few twists and turns.
Aberdeen are at Livingston at the weekend, so we'll see how they get on, whether Peter Leaven can make it 3 wins in a row. As we touched on there, St Johnstone and Ross County very much in the mire. Kevin, another team you played for, Dundee, battling with the Hibbies for that 6th spot. By the looks of things, looks like it's going to be between those two. Dundee with a huge win in Perth.
Yeah, he's done a brilliant job as Tony Dock. I think the biggest thing for Dundee, Liam, and it's only looking for afar without watching them loads this season, is that they've almost been in every game. I can't, and somebody might be able to quote me differently, but they've very rarely had any serious doings this year. And normally when you new manager, Gary Bowyer obviously done a great job in getting them promoted. Is where they wanted to get to. Things changed. There was a wee bit of animosity how that looked like, because I think the Dundee fans quite like Gary Bowyer. And all of a sudden Tony Dock comes in, and it did take Dundee quite a while to appoint the manager at the time. There was a lot of rumours that Sean Maloney was obviously going to get the job. There's other people linked, but eventually when obviously they appointed Tony Dock, first time obviously in the dugout himself, followed Derek McInnes around. So I was intrigued to see how he would do. But whenever I've listened to him online or I've seen him in the SFA stuff, he always speaks really well. I don't know if Jackie knows him more personally than I do, but it's no surprise to me that he's done a good job, and obviously a club that I've got a wee bit fondness in my heart for them. I enjoy my time up there, so it's great to see them do well. But listen, it's a tough one for me because I want the Highways to get in the top six.
Of course you do. Yeah, I mean, only really those games against Rangers and Celtic, the 5-0 and the 7-1. Apart from that, it's been like a duck to water, hasn't it? Getting back in the top flight.
Aye, they're the games that have been jacked out. Listen, I've been beat 7 or 8 before. It's I think I got beat off Celtic. Jackie actually played in the game that Celtic beat us, I think 6-1 maybe at Celtic Park. I've also been there since Jackie retired as a Dundee player and been beat 6 live on the telly on a Friday night. So listen, everybody gets a sore one every now and again, but the fact that they've been competitive with everybody out with the Old Firm, I think is testament to Tony and the boys. And I know the Americans are really passionate about the football. I know John Nelms really well. At times he gets a wee bit probably unwanted stick, but they have that football club at their heart, and they're willing to put their money in. The new stadium plans are obviously in place. They've got the new training centre. So I think Dundee, I've got real good hopes to keep on looking forward and keep on punching above their weight.
And just that final bit of the table that we perhaps haven't touched on is the battle for 4th spot and guaranteed European qualification. It could be, if Rangers, Celtic or Hearts win the Scottish Cup, that 5th place will be good enough as well as it was last season. Motherwell and St Mirren drawing 1-1 at Fir Park. Hearts and Kilmarnock by the same scoreline. I just wonder who's favourites for 4th. Would you, Jackie, put Kilmarnock down as favourites for that, or have St Mirren got enough there to challenge them and finish in that spot, which would be an incredible achievement for either team? Whoever finishes 4th, it's going to be a wonderful achievement.
I think it is. I think last week was a massive result for Kilmarnock, especially we're 2-0 down against St Mirren. Sorry, it was 2 weeks ago now, but that was a massive victory for them. Kilmarnock are a good side. I think Dale's recruited very well. The players he's brought in, they carry a threat. They're physical. They've got different parts of the game. But St Mirren, as I said, they're well organised. Robinson isn't well organised, and they've had a great season as well. Like Kevin said, with Dundee, they carry a threat, and that's, you see the teams in the top 6. They're capable of scoring goals, and that's where you look at down the bottom end, St Johnstone's and that. There's not a lot of goals getting scored, which puts them under pressure for not keeping clean sheets. But if you're asking me to just now, I would think Kilmarnock. I think they've got the momentum just now to try and take that 4th spot.
You're listening to the Scottish Football Podcast.
Just before we leave you for the day, I just want to dip into the lower leagues and firstly to the Championship. Jackie was Dundee United manager in better times. I think it's fair to say what a good team you had at the club at that point, and some fantastic players who've gone on to have magnificent careers. But it was a must-win for them against Wraith Rovers, Jackie, and they prevailed, beating the Fifers 2-0, having lost the last 2 against them. It was massive for them, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. They've taken a bit of stick over the last few weeks. The performance and result against Dunfermline. They haven't been great of late, but they're up there. There's no doubt they should win the league. Wraith Rovers have done well to stay in there as long as they have. I know Ian's recruited a wee bit in January. They're bringing some players in, but Dundee United should be well out in front in that division with the players and everything else that they've had, budgets.
Wraith have still got a game in hand, despite the fact they're 4 points adrift. And you mentioned Dunfermline, Jackie, another club that you know so well and will hold dear, I would imagine. They're sitting in 4th right now in the Championship, having been trying to avoid the relegation playoff place they're in a promotion playoff place just now, which just underlines how bonkers that division is. Kevin, you know Ian Murray well, of course. I've had your time with him at Hibs. He's going to be clearly smarting after that one, but they're still very much in the title race there, and it's going to be a really exciting end to the season, you would think.
You just hit the nail on the head, Liam. You win one game in that championship, you're in the playoff, and then you lose a game, you're in the relegation one. So
it's astonishing.
I think Scotty will have no hair by the time he's finished at the Reigns. He'll be back to the skinhead soon. But listen, it's great. It's what obviously we get the games live on the telly on a Friday night, which is, everybody wants to get to the big league. That's obviously where the TV money is and the extra revenue, obviously the big clubs in the Premier League. So I think Ian Murray's done a brilliant job. I think he's done a great job at Airdrie. He's got a style. He plays a certain brand. And listen, sometimes that can change. Jackie will tell you, it's hard to stick to your guns when the going gets tough, and sometimes you've not got the right personnel, and you sometimes do recruit and you maybe bring in the wrong players, and before you know it, you need to adapt. You don't always have the best players when you're a manager. You can sometimes have a group of players that are underneath. But I think Ian Murray has always punched above his weight every job he's had, and fair play, Rafe. It's not a negative on Jim Goodwin, but he should be well out in front. They should be winning the league. They've got a huge budget. They've got a big depth of squad, and the natural thing with it. Listen, I'm not putting any pressure on Jim Goodwin. He couldn't care what Kevin Thomson says, but the pressure is on Dundee United, because if Rafe were to get over the line, it would be an unbelievable achievement, and it would be a catastrophe for Dundee United. Yet if Dundee United get over the line, it's probably what everybody would expect them to do, really. And
just very finally, Jackie, a word on Falkirk, who you played with latterly.
How did you know, Jack?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, it's easier to mention the teams that you didn't play for, Jackie, to be honest. But no, you played in the Cup final 2009 under Yogi, and they've finally, after 5 years, got out of League One. They'll be playing the Championship next season, and you must be delighted for them, because it's a huge club in Scottish football terms.
As they've got a great support. I like Dunfermline. The backing that they have when the things are going well. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there under Yogi at Falkirk. Getting to a cup final and surviving the last day to stay in the league as well with them.
That's right. That Kilmarnock, wasn't it? Was it against Kilmarnock?
It was Kilmarnock
in
went
Inverness.
down, but Inverness away.
Inverness it was, yeah.
Higdon scored, but it was, they're passionate about their club, and they're well supported, well backed. Last week I think they had only 6,000 there at the stadium. So yeah, it's just good to see them back, and hopefully they can go and build on that now and kick on.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. That is all we've got time for. Unfortunately, I could sit here and talk to these guys all night. I hope you have a good week. You'll be getting this on Monday morning. My thanks to Jackie McNamara and Kevin Thomson, of course. Remember, we publish new episodes every weekday morning, so you can get your daily dose of Scottish football bright and early. So if you haven't done so already, just follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, so you don't miss out. If you're on your Easter holidays, have a good time. If you're not, you're just like us, because we're working away. Look at this. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.